Welcome back to week 3 of our Commitment to Cumberland series. We have loved hanging out with you for the last 2 weeks, and we have one additional week left, and that's our grand finale. It's our Conversations with Carol, where she's going to be answering your questions. We cannot wait to show you so much awesome content this week and next week, so stay tuned, and thank you so much for participating in our Commitment to Cumberland event.
Hello everyone, I hope you all are having a wonderful Saturday afternoon, and welcome to part 4 of the Cumberland Island Performance and Artist Talk series. The 8th movement of the Cumberland Island Piano Suite is entitled Wild Dunes. And when you go to Cumberland Island, if you spend any amount of time walking along the undeveloped beaches, you just can't help being drawn to and enthralled by the wild dunes. The existence of these and the allowance for the dunes to be themselves is something nothing short of spectacular. And the beautiful part of visiting the island is having that opportunity to notice how the dunes live. And if you spend time on the beach and are able to kind of get up in the dunes and walk around some and be gentle and just notice the ebb and flow and how they are just constantly moving about, you begin to realize that they're kind of living beings. The dunes have these very majestic qualities, kind of like royalty, but then yet also have a humble existence that is like the tides of the ocean. And it's almost as if they are just the true transference of the ocean waves into the land. And so that is what is the inspiration of Wild Dunes, the music of Wild Dunes. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy this music. Wild Dunes.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Justine Lavella with the Georgia Reptile Society here for a final segment about our native reptiles in the state of Georgia. And today I'm going to talk to you about actually the segment of reptiles that there aren't as many of, and that's our native lizard species. And I have one lizard to show you today, and I'm going to go ahead and get started and get him out for you. So I have a little friend with me today. This is a broad-headed skink, and her name is Matilda. And Matilda is probably about 2 years old. She's still pretty young, and you could tell she doesn't really like to be handled. And this is how you will find them in the wild. They will try to get away. They will try to bite. And most of our native species are small like this. So this is a female, and they do have a dimorphism. The males are a little bit bigger, and they have much bigger heads, which is why they're called the broad-headed skink. It's almost very wide. And the males also have a very dark red, almost a maroon head. So there's a pretty big difference between them. What's really cool about these guys is that they have iridescence on their skin. So their skin actually shows almost a rainbow sheen. And they're pretty cool looking animals. But you'll find these everywhere. You'll find them running around outside your patio. They eat native insects and that sort of a thing. They lay very, very tiny little eggs in the dirt, and sometimes they'll even lay them in your gutters. If you don't clean your gutters out very often, you'll actually get little lizard eggs in there, and they'll hatch that way. They're completely harmless, and they don't pose any threat to anybody, but they actually are under a lot of pressure right now from one thing and one thing alone, and that is actually domestic cats. So a lot of people let their cats outside to roam around, but it's actually very bad for the environment, and a lot of these little guys end up getting killed by cats. And the worst thing is cats usually don't eat the prey that they kill, they just maim it and play with it. So we find a lot of these with like missing legs, missing tails, or they are so injured that they just can't recover, and it's really, really sad to see. So the only piece of advice I could give to anyone watching this program is if you have a pet cat, please try to keep it indoors. It doesn't do any good for the environment. It hurts little guys like this and native birds as well, and it makes them a lot harder to find. I don't see these as often as I used to see them, and I think that is a very big reason why. So it's just really important to keep that in mind. And I do love cats, but let's try to keep them indoors if we can. But this is a broad-headed skink, and she's just trying to make sure I don't hurt her, but I would never do that. I promise you I won't hurt you. But she's actually really adorable. And there's a lot of species of skinks throughout the world, and a lot of species of skinks you can keep as pets that are great. But these are native, and like I've said in previous programs, you have to have an educational permit or a rehabilitator's permit from the Georgia Department of Natural Resources to keep these legally within your possession. So we use her for education. And so this is Matilda, the broad-headed skink. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed learning about our native Georgia reptiles, and we hope that you do your part in protecting them and their habitats. We really enjoyed supporting Cumberland Island in this project. If you'd like to learn more about the Georgia Reptile Society, you can visit us online at www.gareptilesociety.org. You can also sign up to volunteer on our website or search for us on Facebook by searching for Georgia Reptile Society. Thank you.
Wilderness is the trees around us, the creatures that scurry across the ground. Wilderness is special because it allows us to take a break from the hustle and bustle of modern day life. Wilderness is good for us because it allows us to take a break from the hustle and bustle of modern day life. We can protect the wilderness by going out and stopping companies from putting their tracts of land on it. People can go into the wilderness and do things like hike and camp. In the wilderness, people can camp at night and go see the stars. They can also hike through the forest and look at nature from afar. I have been in the wilderness. It was a fun time. I got to walk around different trails and look at different creatures that I had never seen before. If there was no wilderness, it would not be a fun life. We would really have no break from our daily schedules, and we would just have the same day over and over again. It would make me feel sad because I would know I would be stuck in an endless loop of time.
Hi, my name is Zach, and I'm 5 years old. Wilderness means that the animals are wild. That the falcons nest in trees, and all the animals are great for the world. Because the animals need to survive. By keeping the animals safe and protecting the animals. Yes. Sometimes they play, dig, and even sleep. Yes, at Cumberland Island. It was really fun and we slept in the tent of the whole night. There would be no trees and no animals. Hi, my name's Charlotte, and I'm 5 years old.
All right, are you ready, Charlotte?
Yes.
Okay. Charlotte, what is wilderness?
I don't know.
Okay. Why is it good for us?
I don't know.
Okay. Can people go into wilderness?
No, I don't know.
How do we protect it?
I'm not going in it.
By not going in it? Have you ever been in the wilderness?
No.
Would you like to go there?
Yes.
What do you think it would be like in the wilderness?
I don't know.
What would it be like if there were no wilderness?
Sad.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Kofer Shabika, and I currently live in Charleston, South Carolina, and serve as the president of Wild Cumberland. My first visit to Cumberland Island was back in 1978, right after I had joined the National Park Service as a research oceanographer. I was stationed at Base St. Louis, Mississippi, at the National Space Technology Laboratories, and was doing a tour of the barrier islands in the southeast region over which I was going to be performing research. Over the next 10 years, even prior to that, it was interesting. My initial impression of Cumberland was that it was kind of weird. You had this wilderness area in the midst of a relatively developed area. You had inholdings, a road. You could drive into the wilderness area. And so it seemed incompatible. But over time, I came to appreciate the fact that a wilderness had been designated because of the protection that it offered to Cumberland Island National Seashore. In about, I think it was about 1998, I moved to St. Mary's, where I was performing setting up a monitoring program for Cumberland Island National Seashore to evaluate the potential effects of the presence of the Naval Submarine Base at Kings Bay on Cumberland Island, and especially the wilderness area. But over time, I found that the wilderness designation afforded Cumberland Island a high degree of protection that it would not have had without it. And I think for me, keeping this designation is really important because it does, again, it provides protection in spite of the surrounding development. I recall, and during the years that we worked at Cumberland Island, I think probably the most memorable experience for me was we were working at the north end we were doing shoreline survey work, and a storm rolled in, and over the next hour, there was lightning strikes so close that you saw the lightning flash and you heard the sound of the thunder, and it was a torrential rain, and we basically had no shelter. So we hunkered down in the dunes as best we could. But I think a number of us weren't sure whether we were going to get off the island alive. But it was fairly spectacular, and it's, for me, it showed how natural the area was. We were in an area that was on the beach. We retreated to the dunes, but basically there was no place to go for shelter. So that reinforced the wilderness aspect of Cumberland Island. For me, that made it even more special. I hope that you will support Cumberland Island and what the Wild Cumberland is doing for Cumberland Island National Seashore and for that wilderness. And I thank you for listening to this and supporting this great cause. So thank you.
you all are doing well, and thank you for being here and participating in and hopefully contributing to the Wild Cumberland fundraising event. Wild Cumberland is truly an exceptional small grassroots organization that needs a lot of support. But what we're going to talk a little bit about today is the wilderness that is designated on Cumberland Island and is designated by the Wilderness Act of 1964. And that's really a truly exceptional occurrence. Having a piece of legislation created by our government for within the public lands agencies that draws a boundary around an area that is deemed so vital to our earth that the boundary is intended to preserve for future generations, and not just for human generations, but for animal generations and plant generations and the entire ecological function. The boundary is set forth that should be preserved in perpetuity for its existence, forever, or as long as our governments exist. That's a pretty exceptional idea, in my opinion, that we have a piece of legislation that creates a type of government and federal boundary that is really for the earth and its communities of life. And when you go to a place like Cumberland Island, you can really see firsthand, and you can listen to and smell and even taste that idea and that real life experience of what wilderness is. You can get into an area that is different than just a park or a green space, some type of recreation area. All of that exists in wilderness. But yet when you go to a wilderness area, you can notice the difference. And that difference is because it is preserved for wilderness character, and it is preserved and managed for wilderness qualities. And that's something that I think is truly magical about these places, is that we are taking our human perception and considering the resource of a designated wilderness area to be the wilderness itself, and to protect it from other perceptions of resources. A wilderness area and that boundary is protecting that earth and that environment from other human resources, from resource extractions and even from recreation. The main stipulation of the Wilderness Act determines that no recreation should be done with motorized vehicles or mechanical tools, and management should not utilize motorized vehicles or mechanical tools. And if I have a little bit of time, I might talk a little bit more about that. But wilderness actually is a place where we as humans are mandated to exercise humility and restraint in our actions. We are to manage an area with humility and restraint and with the minimum use necessary, okay? And that's very important. And the idea of management is also something that is very important. You know, we are to question whether or not we should even manage these places. And we are to question whether or not we should manage them with high levels of management or low levels of management, and we are to consider what type of actions we should take in wilderness. Now, over time, you know, those types of perceptions, you know, they ebb and flow. Every wilderness area is different, and every type of, you know, management consideration requires different thought processes, and requires different environmental assessments, and requires different analysis of what that minimum use is. And, you know, that's kind of the beautiful aspect of wilderness, and the beautiful aspect of what the Wilderness Act set forth and stipulated and even mandated. It laid out a framework for humans to learn how to develop those thought processes and learn how to exercise humility and strength. And it grew out of a need for, you know, it grew out of a need and a realization that the Industrial Revolution was doing so much damage to the earth that we needed to take a step back. You know, it took maybe 80 years for the signing in 1964 to actually come to fruition. And, you know, that's truly another exceptional part of the act, is that it was not something that was just created overnight. It was just not one decade of a movement or a realization. It was almost an entire century in the making. And here we are, you know, a half a century later, still debating wilderness, still developing wilderness, still adapting as humans to understand what humility and restraint actually means, and to be able to come to terms with that. And that's prevalent on Cumberland Island. You know, we can go to Cumberland Island and we can stay at Sea Camp and we can experience exceptional wilderness even outside of the boundary. And we can experience such beauty. Just understanding that and knowing that these areas are preserved for specific qualities and characters without even going there is a pretty profound thought. So what is wilderness character? Well, wilderness character was kind of developed out of language of the Wilderness Act and specified in 5 different wilderness qualities. And those 5 qualities are untrammeled, natural, undeveloped, solitude, and or primitive and unconfined forms of recreation. That's a long one that kind of combines 2 ideas of human interactions with nature and environments into one. And then we have another one, a 5th one, that brings together the kind of special features that are unique to specific wilderness areas, and that's called other features of value. And other features of value can be, you know, significant geological features, could be human developments that were there prior to wilderness designation that are deemed as kind of, you know, inherent to the wilderness area, that might even actually contribute to the wilderness qualities. Historical structures that were there before designation can be very significant contributions to wilderness character. Archaeological remains, Native American sites, even going back to, you know, thousands of years ago, Precambrian woodlands eras, and, you know, places that are pre-Cherokee and Creek and other Native American tribes in the southeast region. And so the other features of values kind of encompasses a lot of unique features to wilderness areas. Something like the wild dunes might be something that is extremely unique to Cumberland's wilderness areas. Plum orchard, if that were inside wilderness, which sometimes it's possible that those can be inside wilderness. That is certainly another significant feature of value. But anyways, those 5 qualities: untrammeled, natural, undeveloped, solitude, or primitive and unconfined forms of recreation, and other features of value, are how public land agencies manage for wilderness. So the National Park Service, when they consider actions that they do inside of wilderness, or consider non-actions inside wilderness and around wilderness, they are to consider, as well as all the public lands agencies, the National Park Service, the Forest Service, the Fish and Wildlife Service, the Bureau of Land Management, they are all to consider these 5 qualities in every single management action they do. And they are to consider how actions and non-actions are to either degrade or contribute to or sustain these qualities of wilderness character. So that is a little bit touching the surface of about what wilderness character is, about what wilderness qualities are, about what federally designated wilderness is compared to wilderness philosophy, the combinations of intangible elements meeting tangible elements, and Cumberland Island, in my opinion and personal experiences, is a place where that really comes to a head, comes to fruition. I mean, a barrier island itself, there's a lot of conflict there. The energies of the oceans and the tides meeting forest and land, the constant movement of the dunes, the draw of human appeal, homes, developments, modern society, just the constant pressure of all that, combined with, the utmost beauty of things like a place where sea turtles want to lay their eggs so that they can just continue to simply exist. It's just truly a spectacular place. And I just want to thank you all for being here today. I hope some of this conversation has spurred future conversations, and hopes that some of it can inspire you to support Wild Cumberland. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris Greer. I live in Athens, Georgia. I discovered Cumberland Island 5 to 6 years ago. I was involved in a project where I was taking photos and interviewing park rangers for an electronic textbook. And so I remember the first time I stepped foot on the island, I knew I had been transported to just a very unique, magical place. It was so different than any place I had ever visited before. I'm involved in a lot of different projects. I'm primarily a fine art landscape photographer, and I specialize in Georgia, but I also, of course, travel throughout the Southeast and beyond. I'm also an author. A year ago, my first book from a publisher, Georgia Discovered, came out, and it's a travel guide full of my photography and my writings. It sold quite well. And so I signed another contract, and so I'm producing a second book right now called Naturally Georgia, and it is a pure photography book that is going to showcase Georgia in, I think, a really unique and beautiful way. Finally, I'm excited to share that I'm involved in producing and hosting a new television series that's going to premiere in spring of 2022. It's going to be a blend of photography, adventure, and education. So for this auction, of course, I'm going to donate one of my books, a signed copy, and then also this metal print of Dungeness at night. I went there right around 11 o'clock at night, and I photographed it under a star-filled sky. It's really beautiful. It involved a blend of several exposures to get rich texture from the ruins, as well as that bright, starry sky. And I think the winning bidder will be very happy with it. My most memorable experience on Cumberland Island was probably my last visit there. There was a thick mist fog that kind of rolled into the island, and my friend Jason and I were hiking throughout and taking lots of pictures, and we got some images that are truly memorable. They're unlike anything else I've ever captured there before, and so I'll remember that for the rest of my life. Thank you for tuning in and supporting such a great cause. I'm a huge proponent of what Wild Cumberland is doing. It's such a special place and it needs to be protected. Join me and other artists like myself who are committed to protecting Cumberland Island. It needs protection. It is a unique place, a special place, and we don't want any harm to come to such a special ecological area.
Wild Cumberland runs on volunteer support. There's not a prerequisite here, just people who support a mission: protect the wilderness. Every volunteer has a different background, but passion is what pushes us forward. No matter what your skill set is, you can absolutely find a place to help at Wild Cumberland. All time is appreciated and all support is helpful. If you want to join us in making a difference, volunteer. If you want to help our volunteers make an impact, donate. No matter your level of support, everyone makes a difference. Wild Cumberland makes a difference. We're here to protect the wilderness, and we have a place for you.